June 10th, 1940, Adolf Hitler held a telegram from Rome in his hand. From Mussolini. Its content was brief but historic. Führer, Italy enters the war tomorrow. With you, until victory. Hitler placed the telegram on the table. He turned to Bormann beside him and said, "Martin, I didn't want to bring Italy into the war. Mussolini's army isn't ready. This will be a disaster for us." Bormann was shocked. "But Mein Führer, Mussolini is your closest ally." Hitler, with a bitter smile, "Yes, and we will have to carry him." At that moment, Hitler was absolutely right. For the next 5 years, Italy would be a constant burden for Nazi Germany. It would fail on every front. Millions of German soldiers would be wasted rescuing Italy. But Hitler still trusted Mussolini. Illogical, strategically absurd, emotionally inevitable. Two dictators, one a genius, the other a clown, but together until the end. Why? Because Hitler saw Mussolini as a mentor. And this blind trust accelerated Germany's defeat. Before we begin the story, please hit the like button. It helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications. On the Germany at War channel, we tell the real stories of the war from the German side. And leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Our community is spread across the entire world. Now, let's return to the story. November 1922. Adolf Hitler was reading newspapers in a small beer hall in Munich. But the news he read that day would change his life. Mussolini marched on Rome. The Italian king appointed him prime minister. Fascism has come to power in Italy. Hitler slowly lowered the newspaper. His eyes were sparkling. He turned to Rudolf Hess beside him. "Did you see? One man, one party, one ideology. Power. Mussolini did it. We can do it too." From that moment on, Hitler became obsessed with Mussolini. He read every speech. He studied every article. He learned every detail of fascist Italy. Mussolini wasn't just a leader for Hitler. He was a role model. In 1923, Hitler attempted his own March on Rome, the Beer Hall Putsch, armed uprising in Munich. It failed. Hitler was arrested, imprisoned. But while writing Mein Kampf in prison, he mentioned Mussolini. Italy's Duce has shown the world that a strong leader and disciplined party can change everything. Germany must find its own Führer. In 1933, Hitler became chancellor. One of the first things he did was send a letter to Mussolini. "Duce, you were my teacher. Fascism illuminated my path. Now, Germany is on the same path. Together, we will build a new Europe." When Mussolini received the letter, his ego swelled. Of course, Germany's new leader saw him as a mentor. This was Mussolini's greatest weakness, excessive ego. And Hitler would always use this. June 1934, Venice. Hitler and Mussolini's first face-to-face meeting. Hitler was very excited. Finally, he would meet his idol. He flew to Venice. Long coat, tie, trying to look official. Mussolini, however, put on a complete show. Fascist uniform, shiny boots, mounted guards, band music. The Italian Duce was dominating the stage. The meeting was a disaster. Mussolini wanted to impress Hitler. He talked constantly about Italy's power, his army, navy, air force. Italy will become the new Roman Empire. Hitler listened, but observed carefully. One detail bothered Hitler. Mussolini's Italian was fluent, but his German was weak. Hitler didn't know Italian. They had to use an interpreter. Communication was slow and clumsy. But something more important. Mussolini warned about Austria. "Hitler, don't touch Austria. Italy guarantees Austria's independence. If you intervene, we will oppose you." Hitler was shocked. His idol was threatening him, but he obeyed. "Of course, Duce, I'm not in a hurry about Austria." The meeting ended. As Hitler returned to Berlin, he confessed to Rudolf Hess, "Mussolini is impressive, but something is missing. Real power, or just a show? I'm not sure." July 1934. Nazi coup in Austria. Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss was killed. Mussolini became furious. He sent the Italian army to the Austrian border. The message was clear: Hitler, if you touch Austria, war. Hitler backed down. He wasn't ready yet. Mussolini was strong, or seemed to be. But this incident planted a seed in Hitler's mind. Mussolini could be a loyal ally. But first, he needed to be controlled. October 1935. Mussolini invaded Ethiopia. Out of imperialist dreams. The new Roman Empire will expand in Africa. The Western world was shocked. Britain and France condemned Mussolini through the League of Nations. Economic sanctions. Arms embargo. Italy was isolated. Mussolini was in a panic. His economy was in danger of collapse. His allies had abandoned him. He was desperate. Hitler saw the opportunity. Joachim von Ribbentrop, foreign minister, presented a report to Hitler. Mein Führer, Mussolini is in a difficult situation. If we help now, we can pull him to our side. Hitler smiled, yes. Mussolini is isolated from the West. He needs us. Now is the time to make him an ally. Germany secretly sent weapons and raw materials to Italy. Coal, steel, oil. Breaking League of Nations sanctions. Mussolini was grateful. May 1936, Italy conquered Ethiopia. Mussolini declared victory and sent a thank you letter. Führer, Italy is grateful to you. The West abandoned us, but you remained loyal. Hitler read the letter. He smiled genuinely. His plan had worked. Mussolini was now dependent on Germany. March 1938, Hitler decided to annex Austria. Anschluss. But there was a problem. In 1934, Mussolini had opposed it. What do you do now? Instead of sending a special envoy, Hitler called Mussolini directly. The phone call was dramatic. Hitler, Duce, I've made my decision about Austria. I will intervene tomorrow. I ask only one thing from you. Don't intervene. Mussolini hesitated. A few seconds of silence on the phone. Then, Führer, Austria is no longer important. The Berlin-Rome axis is more important. Do what you will do. Italy won't interfere. Hitler hung up the phone. His eyes welled up. He turned to his aides. Mussolini understood me. A true friend. March 12, 1938, the German army entered Austria. No resistance. Italy remained silent. Mussolini had freed Hitler. Hitler sent a thank you letter. Duce, I will never forget this day. I owe you everything. But the truth was, Mussolini had agreed because he had no choice. Italy was economically weak, militarily dependent on Germany. If he had opposed Hitler, he would have been isolated. But Hitler understood differently. Mussolini trusts me, a loyal ally. This misunderstanding would lead to tragic consequences. September 1938, Czechoslovakia crisis. Hitler wanted the Sudetenland, the region where Czech Germans lived. But France and Britain had given guarantees. If Hitler attacked, war. Hitler was determined. I will take the Sudetenland. By war if necessary. But Europe was in a panic. Nobody wanted war. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain was desperately seeking peace. September 29th, Munich Conference. Participants: Hitler, Mussolini, Chamberlain, French Prime Minister Daladier. Mussolini played the mediator role. Gentlemen, war isn't necessary. We can find an agreement. Hours of discussion. Finally, the Sudetenland was given to Hitler. Czechoslovakia was abandoned. War was postponed. When Chamberlain returned to London, he declared peace for our time. But the truth, Czechoslovakia had been sacrificed. Hitler was grateful to Mussolini. Duce, thanks to you, I won without bloodshed. A true diplomat. Mussolini's ego was inflated. I preserved Europe's peace. Hitler listens to me. I am the leader. But the reality was very different. Hitler got everything he wanted at Munich. Mussolini merely legitimized Hitler's gains. He wasn't a mediator. He was a puppet. May 1939, Berlin. Hitler and Mussolini signed the Pact of Steel. Official military alliance. The two countries would automatically go to war in case of attack on either. Hitler gave a speech at the ceremony. Germany and Italy, together invincible. Strong as steel. Resilient as steel. Mussolini applauded. But Ciano, Italian foreign minister, Mussolini's son-in-law, was worried. He wrote in his diary, "The Pact of Steel is a mistake. Italy isn't ready for war. Our army is weak. Our economy is collapsed. But the Duce can't say no to Hitler, because his ego won't allow it." Hitler was planning to invade Poland. But he didn't even ask Mussolini. The Pact of Steel exists. Mussolini will automatically join me. August 1939, Hitler signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, non-aggression agreement with the Soviets. Mussolini was shocked. Hitler made a deal with the Soviets without asking me? This damages my prestige. China was in a panic in Rome. Duce, Hitler will invade Poland. France and Britain will declare war. And we, because of the Pact of Steel, will have to go to war. Mussolini hesitated. For the first time, he was afraid to follow Hitler. September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. September 3rd, Britain and France declared war on Germany. World War II began. Hitler expected support from Mussolini. The Pact of Steel was clear. Italy would automatically enter the war. But Mussolini was filled with fear. His army wasn't ready. His economy had collapsed. War would be a disaster. September 4th, Mussolini sent a letter to Hitler. Führer, Italy cannot enter the war at this time. Our army doesn't have adequate equipment. Our economy isn't ready for war. We need a few more years. When Hitler read the letter, he froze. His eyes widened. Anger spread across his face. But then, he did something strange. He didn't get angry. He turned to Ribbentrop. Mussolini is scared. Understandable. Italy isn't ready. But it's no problem. We can crush Poland alone. Mussolini will join later. Ribbentrop was surprised. But Mein Führer, the Pact of Steel. Mussolini has betrayed. Hitler, no. Not betrayal. Temporary withdrawal. Mussolini will eventually join us. I trust him. This was illogical. Objectively, Mussolini had violated the Pact of Steel. At a critical moment, he had left Hitler alone. Any other leader would have broken the alliance. But Hitler forgave Mussolini. Because emotional attachment. Hitler had idolized Mussolini since the 1920s. He forgave once. He forgave a second time. He would forgive a third time. May 1940, Germany began invading France. Blitzkrieg. The Wehrmacht was devastating. In just 6 weeks, France was on the verge of collapse. Mussolini watched from Italy. He was horrified. Germany is defeating France, and I'm sitting on the sidelines. If I don't enter the war, I won't have a place at the victory table. June 10th, 1940, Mussolini sent a telegram to Hitler. Führer, Italy will declare war on France tomorrow. When Hitler received the telegram, he had mixed feelings. On one hand, his allies' participation was good. On the other hand, was the Italian army ready? He asked Ribbentrop, "What's the state of the Italian army?" Ribbentrop presented a report. Weak. Equipment is old. Logistics are poor. Morale is low. But Mussolini insists. Hitler took a deep breath. I can't stop Italy. Mussolini wants to join. Let him. June 11th, Italy declared war on France. The Italian army attacked southern France over the Alps. Target: Nice, Marseille. Result: disaster. French defense stopped the Italians with minimal forces. The Italian attack was a complete failure. Thousands of Italian soldiers died with no gain. June 22nd, France surrendered. But not to Italy, to Germany. Mussolini was in shame. Hitler organized a victory ceremony in Munich. He invited Mussolini. The two dictators met in the Alps. Mussolini tried to explain. Führer, our army experienced some difficulties, but Hitler raised his hand. Duce, it's no problem. What matters is victory. And we won. Together. Mussolini was relieved. Hitler didn't criticize him. He forgave him again. But Wehrmacht generals were shocked. Franz Halder, chief of general staff, wrote in his diary, "The Italians are completely useless. Just a burden." But the Führer doesn't criticize Mussolini. Why? October 1940. Mussolini secretly decided to invade Greece. Reason: jealousy. Hitler took Poland. He took France. I want my own victory too. Greece is an easy target. Mussolini didn't ask Hitler. He planned secretly. The Italian army attacked Greece from Albania. October 28th, 1940, the attack began. Italian generals expected an easy victory. The Greek army was small. Equipment was lacking. But the Greeks resisted fiercely. They fought in the mountains. Italian lines broke. Within a week, the Italians were pushed back. By mid-November, the Greeks counterattacked. The Italians fled to Albania. Mussolini was in a panic. This is a disaster. Greece is defeating us. Hitler heard the news. He became angry. Finally, real anger. Because Mussolini had acted without permission. Hitler summoned Mussolini to an emergency meeting in Florence. October 28th, the two dictators face to face. Hitler, Duce, why did you attack Greece? You didn't even ask me. Mussolini went on the defensive. I can also use my own initiative. Italy is an independent country. Hitler, yes, but now you're losing. The Greeks are pushing you back. This is a disgrace for the Axis. Mussolini's head bowed. Our army experienced some difficulties. Hitler continued harshly. Difficulties? Disaster. And now I have to rescue you. But then Hitler stopped. He took a deep breath. He softened his tone. Duce, we are allies. Your problem is my problem. Germany will invade Greece. We'll save you. Mussolini was grateful. Führer, I don't know what to say. Hitler, say nothing. Just next time, talk to me before making important decisions. The meeting ended. As Hitler returned to Berlin, he told his aides, Mussolini keeps creating problems. But I can't abandon him, because he's my ideological brother. April 1941, Germany invaded Yugoslavia and Greece. Operation Marita. Reason: to save Italy. The Wehrmacht advanced rapidly. In 12 days, Yugoslavia surrendered. In 21 days, Greece fell. The Italian army was saved. Mussolini organized a victory ceremony in Rome, as if Italy had won. Hitler allowed it, because protecting Mussolini's ego was important. But the cost was heavy. The Balkan campaign delayed Operation Barbarossa by 5 weeks. The Soviet Union invasion started in late June instead of June. Those 5 weeks were critical, because the Wehrmacht couldn't reach Moscow before winter. Some historians say Mussolini's Greek disaster is the reason Hitler lost in the Soviets, because 5 weeks made a difference. But Hitler didn't blame Mussolini. He was still forgiving. February 1941. The Italian army was also collapsing in North Africa. British General Wavell crushed the Italian army in Libya. 130,000 Italians were taken prisoner. Mussolini desperately asked Hitler for help. Führer, we're losing in Africa. Please help. Hitler again decided to rescue. He sent Erwin Rommel to Africa. Afrika Korps. German tanks descended into the desert. Rommel was brilliant. He organized the Italians. He pushed back the British. Siege of Tobruk. For a while, victory seemed possible, but logistics were terrible. Africa, the supply line was too long. The Italian Navy was losing ships in British attacks. Rommel constantly suffered shortages of fuel, ammunition, food. 1942, defeat at El Alamein. Montgomery defeated Rommel. Afrika Korps retreated. May 1943. German and Italian armies surrendered in Tunis. 250,000 soldiers captured. North Africa was completely lost. When Hitler lost Tunis, he finally felt anger toward Mussolini. But still, he didn't say it to his face. Because emotional attachment. July 1943, the Allies landed in Sicily. The Italian army collapsed without resistance. Within a week, half of Sicily fell. Panic in Rome. The Fascist Grand Council convened on July 24th. Vote of no confidence against Mussolini. 19-7. Mussolini was overthrown. July 25th, Italian King Victor Emmanuel had Mussolini arrested. New Prime Minister, Pietro Badoglio. Message: Italy wants out of the war. When Hitler heard the news, he was shocked. For the first time, real disappointment. Mussolini overthrown? How is that possible? Goebbels wrote in his diary, "The Führer is very sad after Mussolini's fall. As if he lost a friend. He's crying not about losing Italy, but about losing Mussolini." Hitler immediately made a rescue plan. Operation Axe. Occupy Italy. Overthrow the Badoglio government. Rescue Mussolini. September 1943, the Allies landed in southern Italy. Badoglio declared armistice. Italy left the Axis. Hitler responded with fury. Italy has betrayed. But Mussolini is still loyal. We must rescue him. September 12th, special forces under Otto Scorzini's command rescued Mussolini, who was being held at Gran Sasso. Daring operation. Mussolini was freed without any bloodshed. September 1943, Hitler installed Mussolini in northern Italy. The Italian Social Republic was declared. Capital, Salo, on the shore of Lake Garda. But the truth, Mussolini was now a puppet. Real power belonged to the German army and SS. Mussolini was just a figurehead. Mussolini looked exhausted, old, sick, demoralized. When he met with Hitler, the old fire was gone. At one meeting, Hitler asked, "Duce, why are you sad?" Mussolini, "Führer, the Italian people abandoned me. I gave them 20 years, but in the end, they betrayed me." Hitler, "Peoples are always weak. They betray leaders. But we fight to the end. Together." Mussolini smiled weakly. Yes, together. But both knew the war was lost. It was only a matter of time. July 1944, Hitler and Mussolini met for the last time. In Salzburg, the meeting was melancholic. The two dictators examined maps, but no longer conquest plans, defense plans. The Allies were advancing. Soviets from the east, Americans from the west. Hitler, Duce, were developing new weapons. V-2 rockets, jet aircraft. Maybe we'll turn the war around. Mussolini looked skeptically. "Führer, do you really believe?" Hitler looked sharply. "We must believe, because the alternative is defeat, and we will never accept defeat." Mussolini nodded, but hopelessness was in his eyes. The meeting ended. The two men embraced. Hitler whispered, "Duce, together until the end." Mussolini, "Until the end." They never met again. April 1945, northern Italy was collapsing. The Allies were advancing rapidly. Mussolini tried to escape to the Swiss border. April 27th, Italian partisans captured Mussolini at Dongo. He was trying to escape in a German army uniform. April 28th, partisans executed Mussolini and his mistress at Gelino di Mezzegra by firing squad. Their bodies were taken to Milan. They were hung upside down at Piazzale Loreto. The crowd threw stones, spat. When Hitler received the news, he was horrified. He told his aides, "Mussolini ended like this. Barbarians humiliated him. I will not suffer the same end." April 30th, Hitler committed suicide, together with Eva Braun. Their bodies were burned. Two dictators died 2 days apart. One humiliated, the other by his own decision. 80 years later, historians still ask, why did Hitler trust Mussolini? It was illogical. Italy constantly failed, constantly asked for German help, was constantly a burden. But Hitler forgave, again and again. Why? Reason 1. Ideological father figure. Hitler idolized Mussolini in the 1920s. "Mussolini is my teacher." This emotional bond never broke. Hitler couldn't criticize Mussolini, because criticizing his mentor would shake his own foundation. Reason 2. Prestige protection. Hitler made propaganda of Germany and Italy are invincible. If he abandoned Italy, the propaganda would collapse. Hitler abandoned his ally, they would say. Loss of prestige. Reason 3. Strategic necessity in his mind. Hitler thought, without Italy, no Mediterranean control, no North Africa. The Balkans are at risk. In reality, with or without Italy, Germany was losing. But Hitler didn't see this. Reason 4. Mussolini's manipulation. Mussolini played ego games. He would tell Hitler, "Führer, you are great," inflating his ego. Hitler loved these flatteries. Mussolini used Hitler's psychology. Reason 5. Emotional dependency. Hitler was a person with few friends. Very few people he trusted. Mussolini was one of the rare people he trusted. Losing him was emotionally difficult. Reason 6. Historical parallel expectation. Hitler had a vision of Germany and Italy, the new Roman and Germanic Empire. Great historical alliance. This vision was stronger than reality. After the war, surviving German generals talked about Mussolini. Albert Kesselring, Italy front commander. Italian soldiers were brave. But leadership was terrible. Mussolini destroyed the army. and we paid the consequences. Erwin Rommel, 1942 letter, the Italians don't want to fight. Their equipment is terrible. Their morale is low. In Africa, I'm carrying them. Franz Halder, the Führer's blind loyalty to Mussolini was a strategic disaster. We exhausted ourselves carrying Italy. But none dared to say this to Hitler's face, because Hitler perceived criticism of Mussolini as personal insult. History lesson: emotional bonds are powerful, but leadership sometimes requires more than emotions. Sometimes abandoning even your closest ally. Hitler couldn't do this, and everyone paid the price. If this story affected you, please hit the like button. Every like helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications. On the Germany at War channel, we tell the real stories of World War II from the German perspective. And write a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. This community is spread across the entire world. You're part of it too. Thank you for watching.